Hey, what's up guys? It's I Mark Yoon and today brother hopefully exciting video. So what I want to talk about today is actually the community reaction to my last video when I was talking about support for Soul Calibur 6 obviously no longer continuing. This is completely obvious and I was Captain Obvious in the video, but we haven't seen support in the game for over a year and a half at this point, and when it comes time for December it'll be 2 years. So I just wanted to go over how the community thought about this. I had a great reception to the last video. There were a lot of positive comments and there were some negative ones, but we're going to go over a bit of both today because it's important to hear out the community in all facets. So we're going to be starting with this poll that I posted on the community tab, which I always post a poll with every video that I do, just to give a little bit more engagement, and sometimes I pull comments from them to make videos like this, as well as the comment section and my Discord. So we're going to start off with the poll, and the question that I posed was, Soul Calibur 6 has been finished for a while. In the end, was your experience with the final version good? How would you rate your overall experience? And the options were excellent, good, somewhat good, meh, and bad. Now, 38% said excellent, while 48% said good, 10% said somewhat good, 2% said meh, and 2% said bad. Of course, this is a small sample size. It's just who voted on my community tab. And this was, I believe, 131 votes. So yes, a small indeed sample size. Just want to be forthright with that. But what I want to touch on first is start talking about your actual comments. So obviously, I didn't have a chance to pick every comment. I had to siphon through because there was like about 200 something comments on that video. So I just wanted to pick a few to highlight both sides of the argument, and then we'll see where I stand at the end of the video. So we try not to keep it that long. All right, so this first comment that we have here is from Knife and Fork. And they said, personally speaking, I found Soul Calibur 6 to be a disappointment. Why? Here's a couple of reasons. The gameplay, while not bad, was bogged down with the annoying reversal edge mechanic, which constantly interrupts the flow of the action. A bad netcode, the character creation mode was lacking, the music was just okay, and it's a shame because the Soul games normally have consistently excellent music. Perhaps the biggest problem is the single player content, because it's a huge letdown, and they put that in all caps. The Soul Calibur games have given us some of the finest single player content in all the fighting games, so for Soul Calibur 6 to drop the ball so badly in this department was just sad, man. Soul Calibur 6 isn't a bad game, but it's a disappointing one. If there is a part 7, I hope I can take the series back to the heights of Soul Calibur 1 through 3. And no, not just saying that out of nostalgia, those are still great games. I can agree with aspects of that, and I'm going to hold like total commentary for the end, but just to touch on a few of these points before we get to the next comment. Bandai Namco is responsible for the netcode. They have bad netcode across all of their titles. If you take into account Arc System Works, for example, they have multiple games and all of them have rollback netcode except for Dragon Ball FighterZ and I believe Grand Blue. So that's like, it's a Bandai Namco issue. It's not really a publisher issue, but that is something that a lot of people mention, and I mentioned myself a lot in the past, and I hope that we can actually see a rectification of this and get some kind of better implementation of some form of netcode in the next game, just so online matches don't drop as often and it's not as slideshowy with bad connections or Wi-Fi connections. But some of the things that were mentioned here are a bit subjective. I'm reading over this if you see me looking down, so I don't agree with some of it. Character creation mode is lacking, and it's only for the instance of the limitations. There's actually a lot of stuff and functionality in this game, even compared to 5, even though 5 had the best character creation engine. The problem was with the races when they hid parts behind certain races, like certain horns that were non-removable or adjustable tails and things like that. So while the races created a bigger amount of diversity within like your character creation at first, it ended up limiting it majorly in the end, and it did have a drawback from 6 from 5. Another quick point that I want to make out is the music. That seems subjective to me. Innocent Soul from or Ethereal Dream for Setsuka has always been my favorite tracks in the series, and she came back with the DLC, so I love the music in this game. I just wish there was a jukebox option like we have with Tekken 7 where we can play older Soul Calibur titles as well and kind of customize it the same way you can do in Tekken 7. And the single player content, while I can see where their point is, Libra of Souls is a huge mode to delve into, and if people don't really put the time into Libra of Souls to adjust to see what it is, you're never really going to get to the fruition of having a fun experience with it. I hated it for a while. I didn't even play it majorly until like 2 years into the game. And after going headfirst into it at the behest of a lot of my subscribers, I ended up thoroughly enjoying the mode, and I think it's a perfect subsidiary story mode, as well as Soul Chronicles that are fitting for the story, and that's a lot more than 4 or 5 had. And I know he's talking about 1 through 3. Soul Calibur 3 is my favorite Soul Calibur, so obviously, like, I'm going to agree with that. Should have included Soul Edge and Soul Blade, because that's an OG, and not only is it an OG, it is an excellent game. It's also one of the few games where you can actually like drop your weapon and fight hand to hand, which I really liked. But anyway, I don't want to delve too much into this topic because I want to actually get to some more comments. So we're going to go with PS Lover. Said, I would love to see character endings and music like the Soul Calibur 3 in Soul Calibur 7. So I'm assuming this is another point that a lot of people have touched on, and that's arcade endings. I feel like arcade endings are sorely missed, but the only reason why I get more of a pass from me is simply because of the fact that Soul Chronicles are there in its stead, which I know is not a complete replacement, but instead of just getting a character opening and a quick character ending sequence, we get an entire story just with those characters that's a subsidiary that goes along with the main story. So I would like to see character endings come back, and I actually want an anime style. I know that might not be super popular, but I think that would be cool. But that's just me. Everyone's allowed to have their own opinion about that. Hakan Gemini said, I still remember the day when Setsuko was revealed in the Roundtable event. The character we wanted back for so long, but still hope for Soul Calibur 7 to improve on what 6 left us with, especially Reversal Edge. You're going to see this topic come up a lot when it comes to good reviews and bad reviews. Reversal Edge is probably the most controversial point in this game. It's a game mechanic that not a lot of people will like. I see very few love for the actual mechanic itself. Personally, at high level gameplay, it's a lot easier to avoid, but there are certain characters with different ranges, and so getting to know everyone's different hitboxes and how they swing their swords, like whether the reversal edge is initiated with a forward slash or like an outward slash, because you can't really avoid that. That lies the problem. It is, I think, the biggest implementation if they decide to keep it in for 7, which I hope they don't, but if they decide that they do, the biggest thing that they need to do is have it cost meter, not have it gain meter, because you actually get meter as a reward of mashing this as opposed to actually losing meter. So just have it cost meter, and I think it will balance it out pretty nicely. Patrick Batista says, Soul Calibur 6 is and will always be a masterpiece and a comeback story from one of the most popular fighting games of all time. We only know what the future of Soul Calibur series is after Okubo's departure from Bandai Namco last year. This is something I've touched on before, and I've actually made several videos on. I'm glad you enjoyed the game, by the way, Patrick. Motohiro Okubo, while he was the forward driving force behind Soul Calibur 6's reemergence, because the series was canceled before this, he is responsible for bringing the series to life. He was the executive producer, which means that, like, he had help producing the game, which means, you know, fundraising and making sure everyone's on staff and getting on point and staffing the holes that were not there. And as far as we know, most of the other Project Soul is still there besides him, so we still have the same director, which it might change the next game because usually Soul Calibur games change directors every single game. But we're also going to have a lot more. We have the same art department, the same writing team, and all of the narrative is going to be pretty much what we know because we've seen how far it goes into Season 2. So we know where the story is going, but I don't want to make this super overly long, so let's move on. Alright, and we have James Shepard said, Soul Calibur 6 was an absolute return to form after the utter disappointment that was Soul Calibur 5 with its myriad of cut characters, cut content, new characters with very little story significance, and by far the most unlikable protagonist in Patroklos, who along with his sister Pyrrha, each took up 2 slots each. That's a common thing that I've heard, like a lot of people saying Soul Calibur 6 is somewhat a return to form because they're going back and rewriting Soul Calibur 1 and forward, so a lot of the events that took place in Soul Edge are still there, but it's like kind of like a new timeline, so the old timeline's not affected at all. being that you can't make predictive posts about the future because things that happened in that last timeline aren't necessarily going to happen in this timeline or happen in any similar way whatsoever. But I've seen a lot of people that don't like it, but I've also seen a lot of fans of Patroclus over the years of doing this channel. Even though I'm not particularly a fan of them, some people are, so I guess they have a right to say of an opinion as well. And then Michael Eugene Hardy says, "Farewell, Soul Calibur 6, we are moving on to Soul Calibur 7. And that's the biggest, that's the biggest thing that I wanted to drive with that. We do have a few more comments here, and then we will finish up the video. So Louis Estrada, which is the pinned comment on the video, if you want to go check that out and give it a like, it said the biggest positives takeaways from Soul Calibur 6, and this is going to be, hold on, this is going to be a mouthful. Give me a second. Number 1, story matters. Rebooting the series is the best decision Project Soul could have made with this game while adding their own twists and making the story more dynamic, especially with characters who were introduced in later games where we know less about them. Number 2, underrated characters get their due, i.e. some characters got revamped movesets. Number 3, individual gameplay. Libra of Souls is a great way to have custom characters choose their path, either pursuing either Soul Calibur or Soul Edge. Number 4, setting up future story arcs. The narrative introduced in Season Pass 2 really set up an enticing story arc for Soul Calibur 7. The Swords and the Shepherds arc, if treated with care, will be an amazing story arc. I totally agree. Super hyped for that. Number 4, setting up future story arcs. Alright, I read that, sorry. What they can need to improve upon is keep up the momentum. If they decide to add more legacy characters like Rock, Aeon, or Yoon-Song, please update their movesets, especially Rock. Number 2, netcode. Number 3, character creation. With the fixes of turning off armor breaks for your created fighter, it kind of made some of the races obsolete, aka the Angels and the Demon races. The races are a good idea in itself, but honestly for future games they can cut down the races by half. Hopefully Bamco gives them a bigger budget to add to creation pieces and make them gender neutral. Everything he said I agree with, so I really have nothing to add to that. Solar for 95 says, the best way I could describe Soul Calibur 6 would be in doing a lot with a little. Even in spite of the minuscule budget and all of the behind-the-scenes issues, Project Soul managed to deliver an amazing experience with Soul Calibur 6. Is it perfect? No, of course not. But even in spite of its flaws, it's one of the best experiences I've had in recent memory. Farewell, Soul Calibur 6. Here's to an amazing experience. I'm confident your successor, Soul Calibur 7, will deliver. Again, can't agree more. Alright, I think we have 2 more, and then we're 3 more actually. Sorry, this one's a little bit shorter though. I Love Dolphin said, and thank you Mark for still supporting the game even though it's not as popular as Tekken and maintaining a positive attitude about it. Also Solar for 95 for the vocal libraries. I'll be looking forward to seeing you support Soul Calibur 7 and talk about it. I just wish that some of the community has a similar mindset to you when it comes to this game. Thank you for the compliment. I'm not gonna obviously comment on my own way of talking about this game. I have been as critical as other people in the past for certain areas, but I give them props when they fix that or change it. Man, this video is running on long, I'm sorry. And Tatsuke says, I agree with the character creation needed some fixing up, and I miss how it was in Soul Calibur 3 where you could layer stuff really easily and there were plenty of options. It took the fact that Soul Calibur 6 was a reboot of Soul Calibur 1 into account and had made some older OCs from the original parts of the story, like Liu Kang from Mortal Kombat, and was the only character I probably would have wanted to make in this game due to the timeline. I hope Soul Calibur 7 fixes this. It was too limiting in the end, and I built my own original characters and having fun making storylines where they are. Yeah, character creation is a big selling point of the game, and it's been so since 3, and that's actually a lot of reason why certain people even play the game. And then that was actually it. We're back to Knife and Fork's comment. I had an argument with somebody who I banned, and I might actually make a short for that or something, because I'm not going to go into all that. But thanks for supporting that video so much. Hopefully this one gets as much support as that one does. I've been doing this upcoming on 5 years, so it's nice to see that not only Soul Calibur, but the channel and fighting games in general are getting a little bit more love these days. Let's just stick to a lot of these points, like we're talking about single player content, netcode, and actually making a more fun overall experience for people that play the game, not just esports, because as important as esports is for marketing, we're still the ones buying the game at the end of the day, and we want an all-rounded, good, fun experience. So, again, farewell to Soul Calibur 6. I'm going to continue playing it until Soul Calibur 7 releases, obviously, as I guess most of you are going to do. But it was, overall, in my opinion, a solid game. I think I would end it off with maybe a 7.5 or an 8 out of 10. But it was a good experience for myself. A little bumpy road in the beginning there, but you can also check out my documentaries channel, A Bumpy Road to Soul Calibur 6, where I go into the entire history of the Soul Calibur franchise in a mini documentary style series that talks about everything that happens and why the lead up to this and why Soul Calibur 6 was the way it was when it first came out. Not making excuses, just laying out facts. With that being said, I love you guys, and I hope that you like this channel, and you know what to do. I'm not going to go into all that YouTube talk spiel, but any support is always appreciated. And with that being said, we're going to bring this video to a close. As I always say, I love it. Thank you. Say it together with me now.
And thank you.